All right. So today is about alpha men or high level men. All right. So we don't have any intro videos. We're just going to get right on into it. Okay. So, very first things, like I said, all these great, wonderful links. I did put two of them in the chat already. And it's mainly the one for YouTube. If you want to follow me, you can try to follow me too. Actually, this has changed. Now look at it. This is actually J2 Connect. It's no
Don't for,
longer that one. So if you want to follow
don't
me,
for,
you can. Huh?
don't don't forget to pray, please.
Oh, okay, I'll pray right now.
Prayer.
You're right. You're right. So yeah, so if y'all want to follow us, just go out to YouTube. Like I said, I dropped the stuff already in the chat. And so that's the main thing. And if you want to, follow our hashtags and follow us on Instagram, you can do that as well. But Tashawn is right. That is why, she gets paid the big bucks. Lord God of heaven, we thank you and we give you praise, Father. We ask, Lord, that you will be here, Lord, that the spirit of you will be upon us as we go through this material tonight. We ask that each and every last person be enlightened and that this help them and bless them, Lord God. But I ask, Lord, that you would, talk through me, take control of me, do what you want to do, Lord God. Let this be your time and not my time. And I thank you and I praise you for each and every last person that's here. I thank you and praise you for all of the organizers of CSC. And I just ask that you would just continue to be with us. And we just thank you, honor you, and give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So let's continue on. So this is the message temperature. So, what is the message temperature? Well, the message temperature for those that are new is to honestly help you guys to kind of understand what we're going to go through. So, today, believe it or not, even though we're talking about alpha men, we are going to do a lot in the word today. So, if somebody's not Christian, this is where they might have issues, somewhere in the word. But, those that are Christian, sometimes they don't necessarily like the emotion, mind, and lifestyle stuff. So, this is what we're just trying to let you know kind of what we're doing, how this thing flows. And this temperature always changes depending upon what we're talking about. All right. So then you can make your decision whether or not you think this message is for you. Okay. So let's start at the very beginning because I've heard it's a very good place to start. So, what in the world is an alpha? So, when we talk about alpha over here at CSC, what we're basically meaning is something that comes first. Okay. That's really all it means, something that comes first. And when we say beta, we just say something designed to come next in the second position, right? So that's where you get alphabet. Alphabet comes from alpha, then beta. That's where it comes from. It means that alpha leads, beta follows. That's it. So what is an alpha? In a lot of ways, it is a leader. That is what an alpha is, but we need to understand. We need to stop and understand. So what I have on the screen right now, if it's too small for you all to look at, is this is child actor stuff. So why am I talking about child actors when it comes to alphas? Well, you have somebody like Miranda Cosgrove right here that's shown in this picture. And she was a child actor, but she was a child actor that didn't make the news. And the reason why she didn't make the news is because she doesn't have any controversy. She's not out there sleeping with everybody. She's not out there on drugs. She evidently had good parents that even though she was a child actress, they didn't let her get away with everything. And so she kind of was raised in a way that's kind of not necessarily normal, but she just didn't get in trouble. Then you look over here and you have Justin Bieber, for anybody that's over 30, knows Justin Bieber struggled from 17 through 21. He just seemed to struggle. He was getting, all in drugs. He was getting tattoos all over the place. He was causing so many problems. And then you have the Google when you Google child actor problems, and you see all these issues related to child actors. But then we see again Miranda Cosgrove over here, who never really had any major problems. Why are you bringing this up, Jay? Why is it so important that you have had us to go 100% off track to talk about child actors before you get back to alphas? And the reason why I've done that is because a lot of people hear the term alpha man and they think that's a bad guy. They think that is the guy who's the jerk, who comes in, who plays women, who, kicks guys, people around. They see that as the bully in the movies and all these other types of things. So what's happened is we have taken this term, which really just means leader, and we've demonized it. And why have we demonized it? Well, because unfortunately, like people say, one bad apple spoils the bunch. And when one person has a bad, experience with an alpha man, now they want to write articles, and now they want to say, hey, you need to avoid these people, and now they want to say all these things about alpha men. But we have to say the same thing about other things. Are there bad pastors in the world? Here in Atlanta, we've had issues with pastors over the years. I know most recently, a lot of people know about the big blow up about, what was it, maybe 8, 9 years ago with Bishop Eddie Long that made national news. So are there bad pastors? Yes. But are there good pastors? Yes. Are there bad politicians? Yes. Are there good politicians? Yes. Are there bad police? Yes. Are there good police? Yes. So alpha men are not bad men. They're just leaders. Nothing more or nothing less. Okay. People get bad reputation because people judge generally by the loudest and easiest to see people, not the norm. And the normal guy that's an alpha is not out here bullying people, being mean to people. In fact, a lot of alphas are the ones that come to their rescue. All right. Because again, an alpha means a leader. So a lot of alphas are coming to the rescue of people who are being bullied by other alphas. Okay. That's really all it is. So, what is an alpha versus a select? I don't know if some of you guys have heard that, but that is a term that is in many of the podcasts. And then there's also the term high value man. Some of you might have heard that term. So, what is the difference between these three? It is very important for us to stop here for a minute and talk about this, because I guarantee you, in the discussion, there's going to be somebody that's going to talk about a high value man, and they're going to equate them to an alpha. And an alpha and a high value are actually two totally different types of men. All right. An alpha man is a leader. That's it. Okay. That's all an alpha is. They're just simply a leader. Okay. So, what is a select man? Okay. A select man, if you've ever heard that term, is just simply a man that has a way with women, a man that is desired by women, a man that when women are around this man, they just want to be in relationship with this man. That is a man that is select. Okay. But a select man can be broke. He can be rich. He can be a follower. He can be a leader. He can be a beta or an alpha. It doesn't matter. Okay. That is a select man. A high value man, according to most podcasts, is a man that not only ranks high in the dating space, but also in the world space. So high value men have criteria which is based upon the opinions of, like I say, those podcasts or dating coaches. But generally speaking, high value men are going to be your tall, attractive men that dress well, that make six figures, that are part of, some kind of organization, maybe a fraternity, and that have economic or political influence. Okay. So how does that work? So the three pictures that you see. Okay. So the top picture is Tashawn's pastor. All right. So he's actually done some work with us. Okay. He actually is a pastor. He is over a congregation. Because he is a leader, he is an alpha. But he is not a select man. All right. He's an alpha, but he's not select. He's an alpha. He may or may not be a high value man. I don't really know him well enough to know if he's a high value man. I would doubt it. Maybe when his congregation grows to 10,000, he'll turn into a high value man. But right now, he's an alpha. Okay, what is this guy? Some of you might remember this picture. This was a felony mugshot that went viral. And everybody wanted this guy to be a model. And then underneath, you can see the exact thing from the news. It was on the news, as you can see, and it says, "Ladies love this felon's mugshot." So this dude is broke. He is a felon. He is literally has no power. He has no money. He doesn't even have his freedom. But women find him sexy. They find him attractive. They want to be with him. All right? He's a select man. Women have selected him, but he's not an alpha. They just simply find him attractive. Okay? That is a select man. And then we have Barack Obama. And whether or not you hate Barack Obama or love Barack Obama, it doesn't matter. We're not here for politics. We're here for the fact that, is he a high value man? Yes, Obama is a high value man. He has political influence. He makes well over six figures. He dresses well. A lot of people consider him attractive, and he's tall and all that other kind of good fun stuff. So whether or not you like Barack Obama or don't like Barack Obama, it doesn't matter. He is a high value man. But just because he's a high value man doesn't mean he was a select man. When he was going through, back in college and when he was becoming a lawyer, that didn't mean every woman wanted to sleep with him or wanted to be with him or wanted to hang out with him. If that was true, he'd be a select man. But he might not be a select man. And while more than likely he's an alpha because he was the president, technically, because there's so many people wrapped around and so many people in your ear, he doesn't necessarily always have to be an alpha. But for the most part, since he's the president of the United States, we are going to consider him an alpha. But I wanted people to understand what's the difference between these three types of men. And that is why any man can be an alpha. Okay, this is not hard to be. This is why we're talking about it tonight. So that people can make decisions to figure out what they want, and women can make decisions to figure out, again, what they want. All right? So as we go on and as we chat later, we want to make sure that we understand what an alpha is. An alpha is a leader. So you can be 5'0" as a man and still be an alpha. Okay? You can be broke and still be an alpha. Mm-hmm. Okay? You might not have no economic or political power, but you can still be an alpha. Okay? You can be literally broke on the street and still be an alpha, because you can be that homeless guy that organizes the other homeless people. See how that works? He's just a leader. That's all that means. Okay? So if he's a jerk, he's a jerk. If he's a nice guy, he's a nice guy. If he's in the middle, he's in the middle. If he's attractive, he's attractive. But we need to understand before we go further what we're talking about, because that's the main thing. Communication is big. So if we're not saying the same things, and we're not talking apples to apples, all we're going to do is get ourselves in trouble. Okay, so let's go on. So let's talk about more on alphas for a minute. So alpha means leader, like I said, and beta means follower. Men and women or women can be alpha. So you have alpha women. There are a lot of women that are alphas. It just means they lead. They like to lead. If a woman is a VP, if a woman is, when she goes to church, she's the one that is leading all the other women and sometimes some of the men, then she's an alpha. Alpha means leader. That's really what it is. Sometimes we're leaders for a while, and then we come back out of that leadership. Some people stay in that leadership forever. So generally speaking, when you are the type of person that get in leadership, you're always looking for leadership roles. You tend to be the leader wherever you go. That is really where we're talking about. A person is an alpha all the time. However, a beta can become an alpha in certain situations, and certain times alphas can become betas in certain situations. Now, one of the things that's always been controversial is the next three things, because we've talked about some of this stuff before, and sometimes people get their feelings hurt, but don't get your feelings hurt, because there is hope. So alphas generally attract betas. Okay, so betas generally are naturally attracted to alphas. Okay, alphas can marry alphas. This is where the problem comes in, because there's a lot of women who are alphas, and they're basically trying to say, oh my gosh, every guy I've ever dated has been a beta, and I just want an alpha. How can I get an alpha? Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. right? And a lot of people that's hung around CSC for a long period of time, they've heard that conversation. We've talked about that so many times. So we're going to talk about that more later. But betas can also marry betas. But generally, when betas marry each other, they literally are always looking for something to guide them because betas don't like to guide themselves. They like somebody else to guide them. Therefore, that is why they're a follower, is because they literally like following. They don't like the pressure of certain things of life or whatever it is to be on them. All right. So that is how betas work. Okay. And no one is pure. Again, nobody's pure. So there's no such thing as a pure alpha or a pure beta. Sometimes, like I say, alphas can turn into betas under certain situations. Certain times betas turn into alphas under certain situations. So what is this thing at the bottom? Okay, for you guys that can see that. So this is kind of what we want to understand, that this is a sliding scale. So you have your alphas up here in this area. And again, they might be red, all the way down into this purple. So that is the alphas of the world. And then the betas, and there's more betas than alphas. Okay, that's how it works. So there's more betas than alphas, but you can see there's some betas with a lot of alpha tendency. And then you got some betas that are starting to go into the undesired group, right? So the betas are in that middle tier trying to, kind of vacillate back and forth. And like I say, depending upon somebody's temperament, they're somewhere around in here. Now, these are the two things that we generally don't talk about that much in CSC, but it's really hard to go into this without talking about this. So there are people, that have, I'm just going to be real, they have tendencies that people just don't like them. I'm just being real. They don't like them, and they're more in the undesired category. It's not saying they can't come out of that category, because I think anybody can move around, but they might have tendencies, beliefs, different things like that. They kind of keep them in this undesired group at the bottom. All right. And then you have your loners. In the alpha beta world, they call those sigma man. You might have heard that term before, sigma male. But all that means is they're loners. They don't follow any convention. A lot of times those are your artists, or your people that, want to be like, motorcycle, gang type people. They just want to do something different. They don't want to follow society. And that's generally this little group over here. And you kind of have to put them in a different group because they think a little bit differently. So these four are generally the four type of men that you're going to run into. Since we're talking about men tonight, we were talking about ladies a few nights ago. But this is basically how this works. So I just kind of want people to kind of have an understanding, because, again, not every alpha is super alpha, and not every beta is super beta. So people need to kind of stop, thinking black and white, and let's think in spectrum, shades of gray, right? So before we go any further, we've already defined alpha. So we need to find out what women want. All right. So we need to talk about what women want so that guys can kind of understand. And again, we can kind of figure out, how do we do this? How do we play this alpha male game? So there's three things that most women at the subconscious level, this is what we're talking about, the subconscious level. We're not talking about at the top. All right. We're not talking about the top level. We're talking about the subconscious level. There's three things that most women have as non-negotiables, and they're looking for a man to provide. And so, again, guys, don't panic. This is not saying that you have to be a multimillionaire. All this just saying is you can take care of yourself. You're not overflowing with debt, and you can probably have enough money left over to take care of a child. So most women, modern women these days, understand that, they're going to work with you, and the money is going to be there for both of you. But you need to kind of understand that if you just flat foot broke and you can't even take care of yourself, that is not sexy for women. That is 100% not sexy. And so most women are just not going to talk to you unless you are select. Then they might talk to you because they really just want to have a good time with you and then move on to the next. The next thing is to protect, okay, or try to protect. This is the energy that makes a lot of women like tall men, because the subconscious mind says if the man is taller than me, if he's stronger than me, then he can protect me. All right. So the big thing is, hey, if you're over, 5'11", you're probably good. If you're under 5'11", hey man, hit the gym. I hit the gym all the time, because I know I'm not a 6 foot dude. So when I show up, I gotta, have that look on me like I can protect. The final thing is the ability to lead. And that's really what we're talking about tonight. Because what are alpha men? They are leaders. And this is the thing that women are looking for. They want a man that can lead. At the subconscious level, it just feels wrong for many women when they're leading their man. Now, not all women feel that way. Remember, there are a lot of alpha females. But for many of them, they really do want a man to be able to lead. So that's really important. So we need to, really clear up what what women are saying and what men are saying and stuff like that. Because a lot of times when people are talking, you have to read between the lines. Okay. You got to read between the lines because men don't understand women speak and women don't understand men speak. So we always think that the other side is saying something that's so foreign and so weird, but they're not, okay? Because you have to understand this is at the subconscious level. So when a woman says there are no good men out here, what she really means is there are no good men out here who can protect and provide for me, who I find attractive by being taller, stronger, with good testosterone levels, who is kind, loving, and that I can easily submit to. Because if she can easily submit to you, then you're a leader. It really is that simple. Okay, one of the things that, and people at CSC know that I pick on the CSC leaders a lot. And those that have hung around for a long period of time know that my good friend Tashawn is a leader in herself. She has led a lot of the things for CSC. She has done so many wonderful things. I just love her to life. But Tashawn was very much married, very submitted to her husband, when she was married. And what's even on top of that, Tashawn has submitted herself to me. You see how that worked? So even though she has the ability to lead, because I have the ability to lead, and she understands my ability to lead and the calling of my life to lead, she has said, I am going to submit myself to you. Because every one of the organizers has submitted themselves to the vision that God has given me. Therefore, all the organizers have submitted themselves to me. But they would not submit to me if they thought I could not lead. Do we see how this is working now? Because alpha just means a leader. It doesn't mean I'm rich. It doesn't mean I'm attractive. It doesn't mean that I'm awesome in this or that. All it means is that I am a leader. And the better leader you are, and the more compassionate leader you are, especially when I'm talking to the men on the call, the more of a good leader you are, the more women are saying, I trust your leadership, so I can submit to you. But if they do not trust your leadership, they will not submit to you. All right? And it's not to say every woman has to submit to her man. I know we're Christian and that's in the Bible. But we do talk sometimes about women who are alpha and they marry beta men because it can work. I'm just saying that as an aside, but we're going to stay on track tonight on alpha men. Okay, so here we go with Jesus. And this is one of my favorite, absolutely favorite, things in the Bible. And it's a lot on here. I'm just going to go through it really quickly. But in one day, everything that you see on the screen happened. All this happened in 24 hours, according to the Bible. So I'm just going to read some highlights. So as soon as Jesus heard about John's death, he was sad, so he went to be by himself. But when he went to be by himself, all the people knew he was out there, so they came out to try to holler at him. And when they tried to come out, he basically had compassion on them. He healed their sick. He talked to them. That evening, so we're still on the same day. That evening, the disciples were like, yo, send these people home. It's getting late. And Jesus said, no, we're not going to do that to them. We're going to feed them. And the disciples were like, yo, how are we going to feed them all the way out here? And that's when you heard about the miracles of the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. All right. So he ends up feeding 5,000 men plus women and children. So it's probably 200 people out there, if not 2,000, 20,000. All right. Okay. So after that, what happened? So now we at almost nighttime, evening. So Jesus is like, yo, and it says basically, he insisted that his disciples get back on the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. So listen how Jesus is doing this. He's like, look, disciples, you go ahead. I'm going to take care of these people. Now, remember, this is all one day. Who are the people coming to see? They're coming to see Jesus. Who is doing the miracles? It's Jesus. Okay, and what happened at the very beginning of the day? His cousin died. Okay, so now Jesus sends them on, and then later on that night, he comes walking on the doggone lake. Now remember, they taking a boat across this lake. This is not no little teeny river. This is a lake, maybe 3, 4, 5 miles across. And here he comes walking on the doggone lake. So think about it. So his cousin dies. He preaches to people, heals them, feeds them, sends his disciples on, and now he is walking 5 miles on the lake at nighttime. And then the Bible basically says that it was like going closer to early in the morning. So then, that's the whole thing when Peter comes out and, Jesus helps Peter to walk on the water. And then once they get to the other side of the lake, it's now morning again. And now the people are coming because they recognize Jesus. And now he's over there healing their sick again and basically helping them out again. So in 24 hours, Jesus has not slept. He has not had time to heal himself. He has looked towards the needs of everybody else except for himself. This is 24 hours with Jesus. Okay, so Jesus is the ultimate alpha. There is no alpha higher than Jesus. And we see what Jesus does and how he deals with people, how he cares for people. But let me show you something else about Jesus. Okay, so in the very first part, many of you know this is about the Roman, I think, centurion. And Jesus was like, yo, I will come and heal him. And the centurion said, Jesus, you just say the word and I know he's going to be healed, because when I tell people to do something, they do it. Okay. And so Jesus was like, you know what? I've never seen faith like this in all of Israel. Okay. And what he's saying here is about authority. Who has authority? How does authority work? Authority is absolute. Okay. And to make it a little bit clearer, let's go to Matthew 8. So another one of his disciples said, Lord, let me return home and bury my father, because my father just died. And Jesus told him, follow me now, and let the spiritually dead bury their own dead. Then later on in Matthew 10, Jesus says, if you love your father or mother or your son or daughter more than you love me, okay, then you are not worthy of me. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of me. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. So what we see in Jesus is that he is the nicest guy, considerate, loving. He puts you first. But when he gives you an order, it's an order. It's not something to play around with. It is not a suggestion. It is, come with me now. If you love anybody more than me, i.e., if you're respecting, following, doing anything more than me. Okay, and why is this so important when we start to talk about alphas? Because this is what the balance is. See, because alphas lead. Okay, and that's how they work. But the ultimate alpha is Jesus, right? So what we need to understand about biblical leadership, and this is where a lot of people get hurt and they get their feelings hurt and they start to go and rant and rave and all this other kind of stuff. So biblical leadership is simply summed up in these two things. So Matthew 23 says, the greatest among you must be a servant. And those who exalt themselves will be humble, but those who humble themselves will be exalted. And then finally in Luke 9, it says, whoever is the least among you is the greatest. So what God is saying is that when guys, you are leading, or any alpha that is leading, you're supposed to lead sacrificially. So that basically means when we have the CSC picnic in 3 weeks, and there's just enough food for everybody except for me. Okay, because I'm the lead organizer. That means that everybody gets to eat and I don't eat. That's what that means. Okay, you have to pay the cost to be the boss. I come last. I don't come first. Being an alpha does not mean that you're first. Okay, it means that you're a leader. It does not mean that people bow down to you. It does not mean anything like that. When a leader is like, I put it like this: whoever is the leader in a relationship, if it's you as a wife or you as a husband, when you get before God, whoever is the leader, God is going to say, okay, how did you, leader, take care of your beta? So you're going to have to stand before God and basically tell him how you led and how well you led. Just like with me with CSC, I'm going to have to get in front of God and basically talk about the gift that he gave me at CSC and how did I lead them. All right. So in this wolf pack thing, if you guys can see this gift, it's just another image to let you guys understand. So what's going on is that the leader of the wolf pack, the alpha, he's at the back. And the reason why he's at the back is because he's trying to protect everybody in the wolf pack. Okay? Leaders are doing their best to help everybody. They're not there trying to bully people. All right? When people are trying to bully folks, I'll be honest with you, a lot of times they're a hyped up beta that thinks that they know something and they're really caught up in their emotions instead of caught up in what they need to do. So we're getting close to the end now because I think you guys kind of understand alphas and you're starting to understand how alphas should move. So why do women fall prey to imposters? Because many women, they get frustrated, because they're saying, oh, well, I met this guy. He seemed like an alpha and oh my gosh, or he seemed like a leader. And, I just blah, blah, blah. And see, what happens is that pain that you feel. And when you go through that, it's hard to get rid of that pain. And unfortunately, many times we take it into our next relationship. So the best thing to do is to never have that pain in the first place or to minimize it. I know some of you have been through some things. So unfortunately, we'll just have to try to do our best to, do therapy or whatever to try to minimize those things. But in the future, we don't want you to make this same mistake. So how do you stay away from imposters? Okay. So one of the things that women do when they fall to imposters is, first of all, the women who fall prey, they don't really understand what an alpha is. They don't understand who he is. They don't understand what he's like. They listen to a lot of stuff on TV. They watched a lot of movies that say Gaston, like if you're looking at Beauty and the Beast, people say Gaston is an alpha. Gaston is far from an alpha. Now, the Beast is an alpha. I mean, he's mean at the beginning, but he does protect his little castle. So the Beast actually is an alpha if you want to go back and do that. These women may not enjoy a true protector man because protector men generally have rules and regulations. And so some women, they don't like that. They've kind of been taught that that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's a bad thing. Many times women, and this is a dangerous one, a lot of women really are givers and they really love to give. And so what happens is, believe it or not, you can have a battle over who's giving the most. So what happens is many times if the woman is giving a lot and the man is trying to give too, she's like, no, 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 I want to just give to you. And so when that happens, a lot of times they might avoid guys that, that give to them a lot more, and that can cause problems. And so sometimes they can fall prey by trying to avoid men who are givers. Okay. So then you have the whole independent, super strong, all this kind of stuff, woman thing that's constantly being pushed in the media. But, I think a lot of people are starting to move away from that. But they think that the independents can fix the problem, they can save them, that they won't fall prey because they just have this strength inside of them. And they really need to understand that beta men are kind of like, they kind of go with alpha women. So it's really hard, when you have pushed yourself into that alpha realm as a woman, not to get caught up in betas. They don't want to be submissive because alpha men, you're going to have to be submissive. They don't truly understand unconditional love. And unconditional love is hard, especially as we get older and we've gone through a little bit of pain. So these are just some of the things, but here is the main thing we want to get into. And I want to talk about this. That's why I put pause up there. Ladies, if y'all don't get anything else from me tonight, I hope you get this. A man's words are cheap. All right. What does this mean? Okay. We talked a few weeks ago about this. I just basically took Proverbs 7, and I encourage you guys to read Proverbs 7, 6 through 23. And instead of thinking about it from a man's perspective, because that was Solomon talking to his sons, I want you to think about it from a woman's perspective. If Solomon was talking to his daughters. So what I did was I just changed it around to put where it was a he, I put a she. And that's pretty much it. And when I do that, it's funny what it says. It says he seduced her with his pretty speech and flattery. And how many guys, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, oh, hey, beautiful. Oh, girl, I like that dress. I like your hair. Oh, girl, you doing that makeup right there. Oh, you smell so good. All that's pretty speech. All that's flattery. You allow that man to get to you because of his words. And what does the Bible say? She followed him at once, like an ox going to the slaughter. She was like a mouse caught in a trap, suffocating and waiting to be thrown away. She never knew spending time with this flattering guy would cost her her life. And how many women do we have in CSC who have admitted they have met some guy that spoke really great, had 2 babies by him, and the next thing you know, he gone. And she can't find him to save her life. And that is what the Bible is saying. The Bible is saying it is for your life. It will mess you up. Okay? So a man is an alpha when he acts like an alpha, not because he talks like an alpha. Do not fall prey to a man's pretty words. Any man can do that. They have books that teach you how to speak well. And the weakest men use words, the strongest men use actions. And if you know who this is, some of you guys might know who this is. I know that, we're Christian, but let's be real. A lot of us have watched Game of Thrones. Okay? So this is Joffrey from Game of Thrones. And there's actually a point where he's constantly telling everybody, I'm the king. I'm the king. I'm the king. And then there's people that say, if you were really the king, you would not have to say that you're the king. You would simply be the king. And that's why, even with these T-shirts, they say king and queen and stuff like that. And I understand what people are doing, but it's the same thing. If you're a king, you're going to walk like a king. You're going to talk like a king. If you're a queen, you're going to walk like one. You're going to talk like one. A real alpha is going to going to walk like he's supposed to walk. You're not even going to have to ask him. He's going to take care of it. He's not going to be fussing and fighting with him because he already is going to do what he needs to do. Okay? So that is for my ladies. A man's words are cheap. You can still ask him questions and stuff like that. I'm not saying that, but you need to make sure that his actions are what you fall in love with, not his words. All right. So, men, how do you become an alpha? Okay. So, everyone isn't born a leader, but anyone can lead. All right. So, the first step to understanding what an alpha is this first statement: everything is your fault, and get over it. That's just the basic way I'm going to say it to the guys. Get over it. So, what does that mean? If CSC has a problem, who they going to come to? Who they going to come to? Are they gonna come to Tashawn? Are they gonna come to Donna? No, they're gonna come to me. That's just how it is. We had an incident recently in New York where some guy decided to post an inappropriate picture, and it wasn't Tashawn or Donna that got the email or Kevin. It was me. A woman going off in the email because of the inappropriate picture. So is it my fault? Yes, it's my fault because I am the leader. And that's it. There's no arguing, fussing, and fighting. That's why I don't like men fighting with women. And men saying, well, she's supposed to, and I need the woman to. No, it's your fault. You have to make her feel comfortable. You have to take care of this because ownership is the beginning of becoming a leader. You have to own it. Okay? So that's all I'm going to say, and I'm just going to move on. Stop being lazy. Okay? You cannot be a leader and be lazy. You have to be on your stuff. No matter what that stuff is, you have to be on it. It is your job to please your woman. It is your job to take care of her. It's hopefully she'll take care of you. Okay, and if you pick well, she'll take care of you. But God is going to ask you, why didn't you take care of your woman? Why didn't you, when she asked for roses, why didn't you want to buy her any? When she said take her out, okay, to walk around the park, why didn't you want to do it? So stop being lazy. Stay familiar. If you have places that you're uncomfortable, stay familiar. So when you take a woman out on a date, you need to understand your environment. You need to feel comfortable in your environment. So you don't always have to check out a new restaurant. You can take her to restaurants that you're familiar with. And if you do want to go to a restaurant, you can go there but before time and check it out so that you feel comfortable in that environment because she's going to be able to pick up on you whether or not you feel comfortable. But this is going to be through your whole life, not just dating. You have to always do your research. You have to Google it before she Googles it. You have to do the work before she does the work. And that's the whole point of not being lazy. Okay? You have to anticipate the future. You have to read and or broaden your understanding. You can't be narrow-minded. You can't say, I'm only going to see it from this way, especially when that way is filled with a whole lot of emotion. Not to say that emotion is bad, but you have to really fight that urge to say that this is right because I feel it's right, instead of saying, okay, what is the true truth behind this? And then you really need to stay away from emotional messages that focus on everything's wrong without giving solutions. Because as a man, you are there to lead her towards solution. Excuse me, you are not there to get on your pity party because everything is your fault. All right? Okay, so what does the Bible say about this? I told you guys there's going to be a lot of Bible on this. The Bible says something really interesting, which means for a lot of people that listen to podcasts, okay, especially these emotional podcasts, where they're saying, "Oh, y'all women, y'all are just stupid because y'all are masculine and all y'all don't understand." And then all the women are basically like, "All the men out here and broken, y'all don't care about us, and all y'all want is floozies and blah." Okay, so y'all have heard that. Okay, so that's what's real. So what does the Bible say? Don't hang out with, listen to, or befriend emotionally unhealed people, or you will learn to be like them and make the very mistakes they warn you not to. Do not hang around with these people. Do not listen to that. That drama that you're thinking that you're just watching because it's funny, it will get in you. Okay. It is called programming for a reason. What you watch gets in your brain. Okay. And before you know it, you're talking like them, you're walking like them, and you're missing out on the blessings in life because you're so caught up in some emotional podcast instead of trying to figure out what's reality. Okay, now Proverbs 24, it says, tend to everything that's important in your life. I'm going to say that again. Tend to everything that is important in your life because the Bible says, if you don't, it will be destroyed and taken away from you. This is why a reason why, again, a lot of men get mad because, see, alpha men, when they're really walking in their alpha, especially if they got one or two things going on, and they have, like I said, videos of this and all this other kind of stuff. And you got guys that they don't take care of their woman. They're lazy. They're lazy. And then next thing you know, their woman is dating another man. Because if you don't take care of her, then she might not be yours no more. I'm just being real. It hurts. But if you're doing everything you can, and this does happen, she can still leave you even if you are doing everything you're supposed to. But 9 times out of 10, when you're doing what you need to do, most people ain't going nowhere, especially if even as men, you picked well. It's always important to pick well, no matter if you're a man or a woman. All right. So that's going to be just some things, guys, to help you become more alpha. Other things right here, this is the second one for the men. Find solutions. Okay. I can't say that more. I just really can't say that. I get really sick of a lot of men. They yell and yell and yell and talk and talk and talk, but they have no solutions. They're not trying to find solutions. They're just trying to lean into their emotions. And I get it, guys. I really do, because men have emotions too. But men are called to find solutions. Okay. The next thing is, if you're going to complain, and I know some people might complain tonight, and that's okay tonight because we're here to talk about this. But if you're going to complain, 9 times out of 10, complain in male safe spaces. All right. This is the thing I kind of hate to say in front of women, but I'm just going to say it and I'm going to be real with it. Most women just can't handle male emotion. When we get into our emotions, they just kind of lose respect for us. And while there are women that can handle it, a good portion of women cannot. So I just encourage you, if you're going to complain, make your complaints, and we all have complaints. Do it with your safe spaces. Okay, so take care of your body and your mind, right? Because the more you work out, the more you're eating right, the clearer your mind is going to be. And so it's easier to make decisions when you're just at the top of your game. All right. Look for opportunities. Okay. Men really, one of the issues with a lot of men is that they've kind of gotten complacent with what they have in their life. One of the reasons why women are doing so well in our world now is because women are still looking for opportunities. Women naturally have this ability to look for opportunities, to look for new things to learn about, and to get new education. And because of that, they're always leveling up. But for a lot of men, they kind of get to the point and they're 25 and like, I don't really want to learn anything. I'm good. I make whatever I make, and I'm just going to sit here and watch TV. And the problem with that is that that's not really leading. That's just kind of chilling. And if you really want to be an alpha men are always looking for new opportunities. They're always looking for a new thing to understand and to grow. And women are very attracted to men that are moving in opportunity, that are moving in life. Okay, men that aren't stagnant, but men that are moving forward. We also need to understand, guys, the difference between being nice and being the nice guy. Because really, when a woman says a nice guy, she's really saying that this man that I'm with, he has a lot of the characteristics that I consider to be great or whatever, but I am not sexually attracted to him. Okay. And this is one of the places that we're not going to talk about this tonight, but we've talked about it in some older videos. And I'll try to put our links again in the chat. So if you have not gone out to follow us on CSC 365 on YouTube, I encourage you to do it now. I just put it in the chat. So just click that button, go out to YouTube in another window and hit subscribe. But you need to understand, guys, the difference between being nice and being a nice guy. And I know from a lot of Christians, it's very difficult because you don't want to come off too sexual or too aggressive or anything like that. But it's really important for men, you know, I'm specifically talking to men right here, the difference between being nice and being the nice guy. Because sometimes if we turn off all of our sexual energy, then you will get friends off. All right. But again, I'm not going to go into all of that tonight. You know, we've talked about that before, and that'll be too much of a discussion. And we're already an hour in. You also need to have soft stop rules to govern your life. One thing I've learned about, you know, many women is that they really do kind of like to understand the playing field that they're on. Okay. So if a woman comes onto your playing field, guy, I'm gonna use a sports analogy. I'm sorry for guys that are not into sports. But if she comes onto your field of play, she needs to understand the rules. All right. And you should be okay with telling her the rules and communicating to her the rules. And you need to have rules. If you do not have rules, then she's going to come in with her rules. And as she comes in with her rules, then she's going to actually be in control of everything. And then she's going to lose a little bit of her respect for you because you have no rules. So, one of the rules that I encourage guys to do when they're dating is when you're dating, guys, know the difference between a woman's wants and her needs. And this is why you're dating. This is not once you're married, but understand the difference between wants and needs. So I've tried to say it like this. If I run into a woman, and people know I've said the story before, and I'm just being real, I dated a woman, her tail light was out. Okay. We'd only been on 3 dates and her tail light was out. So I noticed her tail light was out. I saw, you know, there was an AutoZone up the street. I was like, yo, let's go over to AutoZone. So I Googled, you know, how to change her particular tail light. I got her a tail light, cost all $11, and then I changed her tail light. Okay. That is basically doing something that is her needs, not her wants. But if a woman takes me, if we're out, because I do believe in going to the mall, I think the mall is a great place on your second or third date to go because you can kind of get to know the person a little bit more, what they like and stuff like that. But if I go to the mall with a woman and she's like, oh, don't you like these shoes? You know, these $90 shoes. And it would be great if, I love a guy, my love language is guys who buy stuff for me. Then I'm like, nah, boo. No, ain't happening. Okay. Because that is a want. That is not a need. All right. So she needed a tail light. She wants, some Jessica Simpson high heels. And if you don't know about Jessica Simpson, she makes some pretty heels and they'll make them women look real good in them heels. I'm just letting you know. All right. So let's move on. So one of the most misunderstood compliments in the world is when a healthy woman says, you act like my daddy. And I have had women to say that to me multiple times. And every time they say it, I take it as the best compliment. Why? Because it means that she feels safe and protected, like a good father would protect her. And if you are a woman and you have said this to a guy, barring the fact that your daddy is a good father, then that means he's marriage material. Okay, so when women don't have good fathers, it could be like a good male in your life. And the reason why this is so important, ladies, is because that is the energy you want to lock onto. You want to lock onto the good energy, okay, not the bad energy. So we're going to wrap this up with this, so a good alpha will lead by putting you first and your needs first. He will be sacrificial. He will not boast and tell you what he thinks he is. Instead, he will show you. And for the ladies, do not fall into the friend zone trap when it comes to putting men into the friend zone that should not be put in the friend zone. Because, see, a lot of women are so used to what the man says, like we said up here, the pretty speech. And you all are sexually attracted to his pretty speech. And this is why you will meet dud after dud after dud after dud. And even the Bible is telling you this is a trap. And many of you have gone through it at least 3 times, so you know it's a trap. And something else the Bible says that I'm not putting out here, but we all know this verse is that, what does it say? A fool returns to their folly like a dog returns to its vomit. So it basically says that your folly is so strong, you're going to repeat it forever. And every time you repeat it, it's worse than it was before. Because now you vomited it up and it's all in pieces and it's gross and it's honestly bad for you. But you're so addicted to it that you go back and eat it again. And that is what happens when a woman is constantly going after bad men and then gets on forums and starts to say things like, there's no good men out here. There's no good men out here. There's no good men out here. And it always comes down to men with pretty speech, flattery, who wink their eyes and play with their fingers and saying, oh, baby, this, that, and the third. They never have a real conversation. Everything's about sex. Okay, and then you get mad about it. When you have really great guys, when you actually recognize that in your mind it needs to be balanced, okay, those friend zone guys are the guys that God is sending you, the ones you've been praying for. But you keep putting them in the friend zone. Now, I understand as I say this that you have to have some sexual energy. Don't get me wrong. But we gotta, work on the mind a little bit to understand that sexual energy can come because every man has a little bit of sexual energy. And I also want to make sure that you understand that when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about men that are alphas and betas. I'm not talking about the undesired group. We're not talking about the losers. I kind of hate to use that term, but we're not talking about guys that are losers. And I always have to be real clear because sometimes women will be like, well, he's and he don't have no sexual appeal and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. If your friend zone guy ain't got no sexual appeal, I get that. He's undesired. But what we don't want is for you to see your friend zone guy 5 years later walking through, the grocery store with the most beautiful woman on his arm. And then he introduces you, as his friend to his new wife. Okay. And then you're thinking in the back of your mind, oh, wow, I really probably should have talked to him. He really kind of had it, but, I didn't want to, introduce this and, I just wasn't feeling everything. And I'll admit, and we've talked about this before, a lot of times if you dated bad guys, when you first start dating good guys, you're not going to have chemistry with them. I'm just being real. Okay. You're not going to have natural chemistry because your natural chemistry is with the bad guy. So sometimes you have to relearn chemistry. So that's really important too. But we've talked about that before. I mainly wanted to make this about alpha guys. So as we go into the conversation, remember that alpha means leader. We're talking about leaders. We're not talking about, select men or high value men. We're just talking about trying to get, men to level up, to get into that alpha space, to become those leaders. Okay. And if you're going to be a leader, you're going to do more work. That's what it is. But that comes with a lot of really wonderful things. And it makes it easy for the woman. Life should be easy for the woman. It really should be. She should be like, dang, I don't really have to do much of anything. It's like, boom, you know what I'm saying? So whoever is the leader does the most work, just like Jesus did the most work. He did more work than his disciples, but there was that hard edge, that we have to discuss as well. So that is it. And we will now open up the chat. And who wants to go first? Elizabeth wants to go first. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hey Jay, thank you for the presentation. It was really good information. So I want to say thanks. Um, Now my question is like, I guess I'm trying to understand a good way to say this. So I grew up in a family where my mom was an alpha female. Okay, my dad was beta. And to this day, my mom is alpha and my dad is beta. Now, there were times where my dad tried to become alpha, but that caused issues. And there were a lot of fights, and it was just like all hell broke loose. So, the thing is, I was conditioned to become an alpha, like in my career. Like in life, I was trained to be an alpha because that's what was expected of women in the family. So if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't be living up to their expectations. So that's what I try to do, right? Even though that may not be in my nature per se. And then now, after reviewing what you said in the presentation, and of course, in the Bible, everything in the Bible is opposite to what I kind of experienced, in terms of the roles. Um, and so I guess my question is, I'm trying to unlearn a lot of what I've learned growing up, but like uncondition myself. And there's actually life coaches who do this kind of thing. But my question is like, all those people like many years ago, like all the alpha males I that I now looking back, I can see that they were alpha. They were snatched up early on, like they're taken. They were taken many years ago. So like now it's kind of like slim pickings. Like I don't know, like all that's available right now is betas. Like I attract really passive men who are just looking for a source of income, or like they have no like how do I say, no drive. Like they don't have a drive to work. Um or like I all I see is betas, or whatever the other one is called, losers, or sigma, omega, whatever. Like I don't see, I don't do not see any alphas. If I do see alphas, that, like I said, they're taken. So where do we find these alphas? That's my question.
Well, I'm glad you said all that. That was awesome. Because I think your experience is something that we're always trying to key in on. Because alphas do go fast. Just going to be real. Alpha males go very quickly. Same thing, that happens with, certain types of women and stuff like that. And we've kind of talked about that before. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Also, I'm glad that you talked about the fact that there is a push for more women to become alpha. It's all through the media. It has infiltrated everything. Um, so I definitely think that it's a huge push right now for women to become alpha. So again, I'm glad that you said that, and I didn't have to say it. Where are alpha men? There are still lots and lots of alpha men. Remember, alpha just means leader. So alphas will be around you at all.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, some kind of way it got muted. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, one of the big things about alpha is, like I say, they're going to be around you. Believe it or not, you still have them. They're still around. There might not be as many, but they are around, and they will come at different levels of alpha. And so you have to remember that as well. So you might not get the top, alphas, you still have them. I mean, they're around, but, there's lots of different levels. So mainly what you're looking for is men who take charge, men who, like I say, they make stuff happen. I'll give you a good example, and I'm going to pick on him a little bit, and that's Kevin. Kevin's one of our leaders, in CSC, but before I met him, he led another group. He is a leader. That means he is an alpha. Now, I'm not trying to set you up with Kevin or anything, even though he's a great guy. I am saying that he's an alpha, okay? And he's single, and he's out here. A lot of the energy I get from Jamar, he's a little bit younger, but makes me feel like he's an alpha. So there are lots of alphas out here, but we need to, kind of understand, kind of what you're looking for. So the very first thing is, are there alphas? Yes. So that's the answer to that part of the question. The second part of the question, how do you get one? How do you find these guys? And then after you find them, how do you get one? Well, the thing I can tell you is that alpha men, and this can be the downside, is they are really looking for, most of the time, not all the time, because I know I'm going to get in some flack if I say all the time. But, most of the time they're looking for a beta. They're looking for a beta woman. They're looking for a woman that can turn off the alpha and be beta and be supportive. And the image that I always tell women is, think about a train going down a train track. When a train is going down a train track, okay, there is one lead engine. That's the engine that's facing forward. The engine that is facing the opposite way is the beta. The lead engine does the most work, but the engine behind it does a lot of work. And a lot of that work is just keeping up with the first engine, so that they won't break apart. But if you're both alpha, then who's leading? So if you really want an alpha male, you have to be ready to concede your leadership. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to let you have this. Or what you can do is you can lead in certain ways in the relationship and then allow him to lead in certain areas of the relationship. And that's honestly how most relationships are. Like I said, there's this sliding scale. It is not a guy going to come in and he's going to do 90% of the leadership. It's generally that he's just doing a lot of big things, and then you're doing, some things that you're an expert at. But energy, and I kind of hate to do that because that gets into that whole spiritual, type of thing that people have, and that's not really Christian. But what I can say is there is something, I don't know how it works for God, but, there's something out here that when you say in your spirit, I am going to find a really great, gentle alpha guy, and I am going to be submitted to him, and I am going to try to follow his leadership. And you put that all the way down in your soul to the point where it is literally a part of your very being. It will be much easier for you to find those men, because those men are going to pop up a lot more. And I know that sounds crazy, but I find it to be true. It's just kind of like when you buy a brand new car. If you buy a Toyota RAV4, all of a sudden you're going to see every freaking RAV4 in the world is going to be on the doggone road. All of a sudden you see all these RAV4s. Why? Because you're now focused on the RAV4. So once your energy is ready and you're saying, hey, I am willing to do that, then I think you will find a lot more will pop up. But I always tell alpha women that you can find a strong beta male. So you don't always have to be with an alpha male. You can be with a strong beta male, a beta male who does a lot of leading in certain areas. He just doesn't want to lead for the most part of his life, because there's a lot of guys out here like that as well. And again, a lot of the guys, I'm being real with you, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I want to speak for a lot of the guys on CSC, because a lot of the guys on CSC, they get, overlooked and they get put in the friend zone, when many of these guys are really great guys. They're just not sliding up to a woman with pretty speech all the time. So it's important to understand, like I said, what these men kind of look like and feel like. And a lot of the beta men, they are the pretty speech men. I'm talking about these deep betas, one step away from losers. They are the pretty speech men. They tend to be a lot more aggressive because they need you. They need you to pay their bills. They need you to help, them on their rap career. They need to lay on your couch. And men that are alphas, they don't need you. So they're not going to be as aggressive. So I'm hoping that helped you. If not, we can open it up to some of the other men, and maybe they, might have some 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Jay. That was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So anybody else before I start calling on people? All right,
Sure.
Cardo. Go ahead, Tashawn.
No,
Go
let
ahead.
Cardo. I'll wait for Cardo.
No, I was gonna call on him because we ain't heard from him in forever.
I know.
Where you at, Cardo? Talk to us, man.
Hey everybody, I'm actually at work, so I can't tap in too much. But this was I think it was a great conversation, Jay, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know. I had a thought earlier in the conversation when you were talking about you were breaking down the differences between all three of them, and I think it's good. It's a good thing if men desire to be alpha men because I've never heard a woman say that they're looking for beta men. I mean, one lady in the comments said that there she is right there. So that was Patty. Patty said that she wants a beta man, but I rarely hear that. So I think it's a good thing. I think being an alpha man kind of has a negative stigma associated with it. But I think it's a good thing if men desire to be that. But I don't have too much to add to it. I thought this was good. A lot of good gems. I think you dropped, Jay.
I appreciate it, man. It's always good to see you and hear you, and I know you got in that good relationship, so we're excited for you.
Thank you.
Come on, Patty.
As where did he go? I forgot. I lost him. This gentleman just said, yeah, Ocardo. I absolutely have no problem with being a beta man. As a matter of fact, I think it would work better for me because I have strong personality. And definitely I would let a beta man lead whatever he wants to lead, but I have no problem being in charge of other things. So my question would be, because it seems like you encourage women to be with alpha men. So what would be a problem with somebody like me being with beta men?
Well, actually, like I said, I encourage women to be whatever they want to be with. A lot of women, they talk about they want a man to lead, so we get that a lot, just like Cardo was saying. When we listen to women, not just women in CSC, but we listen to women, out here in the world space, you hear more women saying, I want a leader. I want some guy that can lead me. I want a guy that's an alpha. I want a guy that's this, that, and the third. But what you're saying, Patty, we've talked about, a lot because a lot of women like you are alpha and they want to, be alpha. They want to lead the relationship. And while there are things in the Bible that kind of go against that, a lot of that, I think, I think at the end of the day, it's more about the responsibility you're willing to take. And it's about, trying to position yourself to be with God. So I don't have personally an issue with alpha women. I don't have personally an issue with alpha women dating beta men. I actually think that is the natural way for alpha women to date beta men. I think that there are a lot of really great beta males. I've run into them. Many beta males are kind of like beta females. They are, from a woman's perspective, many of them are very attractive. They're nice. They will support you. They will be kind to you. But their role is going to be to lift you up, to support you, to push you. I actually had a video that I thought about showing you guys with Daffy Duck and Lola Duck and thing on the Looney Tunes show. But in it, Daffy is basically a beta male, and Tina Duck is Tina Duck, and Tina Duck is actually the alpha. And so she's going through all the problems that she's having on her job and everything. And he's constantly like, oh, I'm there to support you. I'm supporting you. You can do it. And then finally at the end, she's like, yeah, because he's like, yeah, because I know we're going to get married. And so Tina looks at him and she's like, we're going to get married. And he was like, yeah, once you make enough money, to put me in a nice house and, and provide for me, then we're going to get married, And that's a beta male. The beta male is your responsibility. It's for you to take care of him. I mean, that is the role that he is playing. So I think as long as you both are willing to play that role, I think it's okay. The only thing I would tell you, if you're going to get a beta male, get a very strong beta male. Do not get a loser beta male as they start to go toward the loser category. And the reason why is because men with no ambition generally become wayward, i.e., he starts to look for validation within himself. And when men are looking for validation, if they have no purpose in life, then many times they will cheat on you. And they will sleep with other women because they're looking for those women to give them validation. So that's the only thing I would just say. Don't get a weak beta man. Get a strong. He still has a lot going for himself. He still has a little bit of ambition. Does that make sense?
Yes. And also I wanted to make a comment. Well, somebody who's a leader, first they would have to prove themselves to me. I wouldn't assign this role to just a man because he comes to my life. He kind of has to prove himself. And also, I think a person who is better at something should be in charge of. So let's say whoever out of those two people, man or a woman, is good at finances, let that person lead. So I think it's also assigning roles to the person who is better at that something.
No, I agree with that 100%. And that's kind of what I was trying to say at the end, is that, when you're really in a relationship, it's just like you said, whoever's best should be doing that role. So even, but see, I think that's, again, the mark of a good leader. I don't know if you guys watch Star Trek or watch Star Trek the movie, but the thing that made Captain Kirk a great leader, and you can see it in the very first one with Chris Pike, is that he understood the best qualities of the people that were under him. And so he placed them in the high position to make sure that the ship was going to do its best. And that is also a leader is just leading. That does not mean he's in control of everything. So if I know if my wife is better in finances than me, even though, I'm more alpha, it doesn't matter. She's better at that. And, and that's my foolishness if I am going to try to control that. See, a guy that's submitted, like I said, to the Lord, and he is trying to be sacrificial, he's not going to be controlling. And I think that we have to, and that's why I took so much time to go over what is an alpha, because an alpha, and I think somebody put that in the comments, and again, they might have missed the beginning of the thing. Ebony Sweet says that, what's the difference between an alpha man versus one who is controlling? Any man can be controlling. A beta can be controlling. In fact, most betas are controlling when they just are outside of their element, because a beta man is afraid that you're going to leave him. Does that make sense? Okay, because he's weak inside. He has weakness inside. He has fear inside. Okay, if you as an alpha, like for me, if I've done what I need to do, and I have already done everything I know I can do for a woman, and then she's still saying she's going to leave me, then I'm going to be honest with you, it's just good riddance. Because there's something wrong in my brain in the way that she's working. If I'm bending over backward to take care of her, and then she's still saying that something's wrong. So I don't have to control her. In fact, I try to release as much as I can. I want her to see her friends. I want her to go out. I want her to have a good time. I want her to feel free with me. I don't want her to feel controlled by me. And again, so that has nothing, being an alpha does not mean somebody that's controlling. That's how the media has twisted it. But for tonight, as we're talking about it, we're just saying that an alpha is a leader, and that's our definition of it. But go ahead, Patty. I know you had a little bit more to say, then I'm going to go to Tashawn.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, but yeah, I think you can find lots of guys. And like I said, also, alphas can be with alphas if you just want that. And then you can have a 50-50. You can truly have a 50-50 where both of you kind of, come together. And then you, like you said, you do what each other thinks is best, and then come together and just work it out that way.
Well, I think I just want somebody with a fine character, and everything else I will just compromise.
Okay, there you go. Come on, Tashawn.
Hey, so I apologize. I'm doing some late cooking because I had to run to the store. But I wanted to go back to the question that was posed about kind of how you make that adjustment. Well, the question was how you find, but I just wanted to speak on the fact of kind of how you make the adjustment, because that's come up with some of the women in the group in the past. I need to do this, but how you do it is a whole other thing. And in allowing a man to be alpha, especially when, regardless of whether you release that
way, we're missing that last part, Tashawn. You're kind of, something went weird, just like you're thinning out or something.
Okay. Can you hear me?
No, still can't hear you. We just heard you really good. I mean, were you in a certain part of your house or something?
I'm standing still because I was cutting up.
Yeah, you're breaking up real bad. Kind of hate to tell you to log out and log back in, but I mean, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. But while she's working on that, anybody else want to say something? Again, I'll call on somebody. Y'all know I will. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, Jocelyn. Come on, Jocelyn. Let's hear what you got to say.
I don't have anything right now. I'm just listening.
You don't have anything? Okay. I'm going to call on Miss K then. Yeah, Miss K, I see you. And then I'm going to start calling on people without their cameras on. Oh, my goodness, you got echo.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm really just listening, and I like the comparison you gave. I never heard of it like that, from with the alpha and the beta. And I saw in the chat where someone said, get a Stedman because he's like a beta man. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's, for me, being a woman, it really depends on who you are as a woman and what you can handle. Because I know a lot of women, it's hard to be an alpha woman and deal with a man that's such a leader himself. It's like it's hard for some men to deal with the woman that has leading qualities, I guess. So it's really, my opinion is to do what's best for you. And that's what I think.
Yeah.
I know. I like what you said as far as Jesus being the head. As long as Jesus is the center, or, for people who aren't Christian, it's hard to speak on that. But if you're being led by him, then you should be able to work with the person that you come in contact with, that you feel you can, without sounding like I'm just going all over the place. But for me, I would not mind following a man that's being led by God. Put it that way. Even if I'm an alpha woman, as long as you're leading me and not, in the poorhouse, in debt, whatever, I don't mind following a man. I really don't. And I am a little alpha woman, I guess you could say.
Okay, well, we can work with that. And that's why I use and now Tashawn is back so she can talk, but, that's why I was also using Tashawn as an example. Because those that have been around Tashawn for a while, she's on the alpha spectrum. She might not necessarily be at the top, but she's on the alpha spectrum. And, she was married, and, according to her, submitted to her husband. And, she has been submitted to me, in CSC. So it is possible, and there are people out there. However, I always say that, kind of like you guys were talking about with Stedman. Stedman, I do see him more beta, but he's strong beta. He's a multimillionaire rich beta. So that's why I say there's a lot of beta guys out there. And there's beta guys that got their life together. I'm just saying, don't get that beta dude that's working on his rap career and he don't have no job, and he got 5 babies mamas. Okay, you leave that dude alone. Okay, because that's that loser beta that that people kind of get caught up with, because that dude has pretty speech, and that is a dude that you do not want at all near you. Okay, so alpha ladies, I have no problem with you guys dating beta men, but just be ready to, be the leader, and be okay with it. Because I do hear some alpha women get frustrated and say, I got to do everything. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. Well, own it. Just like I tell the men. Y'all saw me tell the men. I just showed it in the presentation. What I tell them, shut up, own it. Because that's what leaders do. They own it. And everything is your fault when you're the leader. And that's the difference. The beta can complain all they want. You never take me anywhere. You don't do this. You don't care about my needs. Alphas, you can't complain. Give it up. So either you submit so you can complain, or you become the alpha and you shut up and you deal with it and you take care of your beta. And female and women, if you deal with a beta male, he's going to cry the blues on you sometimes. Because it's a personality. It has really nothing to do with his or her gender. All right. And I'm going to be real with you. A lot of people that y'all see in these podcasts, they're beta men. Why? Why do I know they're beta men? It's because they're complaining. And it's always emotional complaints with no answers, no fixes, no solutions. All right. So I'm gonna call on Tashawn, because she was waiting. Then I'll call on you, Jacqueline. Come on, Tashawn. Can you talk now? Can we hear you?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what I was saying, and I'm standing still, so I don't know why I was doing that, but what I was saying was that when you are an alpha woman, so unfortunately, I wasn't raised to be, well, I shouldn't say I wasn't raised to be, but I sometimes you just are, you just walk in, you're in the room, you be quiet, not say anything, somebody's got some background noise, and that people still look to you to like tell people where to go and what to do, even when you don't want to. And I actually have trained myself to come in humble, because I know that I have a big personality. Even if I don't say a lot, I still have a presence. It's not something, it's not, like people say, oh, it's not all that great to be a leader, honestly, especially as a woman. It comes with a lot of challenges, I'll put it that way. But you have to give in a relationship, even when you're just kind of like getting to know them, not even a relationship, you just, in the interview phase, if you will, you kind of need to give room for that, for the man to be comfortable taking the lead. Because if you kind of walk in and just take over, men usually are kind of, even the alpha man is going to be non-confrontational, like, okay, and they're just going to bow out, like, okay, you're just not for me. Versus, oh, well, once I go through all of the changes with you and actually marry you, then you're going to let me take the lead. You kind of start out letting them know how you're going to conduct yourself in the relationship or the situation. And if you can't, even in the initial step of getting to know someone, give that and be, have some humility to say, all right, let me give you the opportunity before I just decide that, all men are beta, or, there's no alpha males. Let me give you the opportunity to lead and see how you handle it. And then if they don't, you know, and like Jay was saying, I mean, if they're beta, that's fine, but don't just like, don't make them fight for it. You know, we're not pack dogs. You don't have to like fight to be the top dog type situation. If you really don't want to be alpha, then don't walk in the door being alpha. Give the other person or the man the opportunity to take on that role or that position. And we talked about this a little bit in the past. Even if you weren't raised to be an alpha, as a single woman in the world, who's, you know, an adult that has to pay bills and, you know, run a household and all of that stuff. The world was constructed for men to run the household. So you, as and all the men on here know how difficult it is to be a man. I mean, you're very aware of that. So if you consider how much harder it is for a woman to be in the position of being a man in the world. And the reason I say that is because different things that we have to do that we're not taking seriously, like when you go get your car fixed. The conversation when a man goes to get his car fixed and when a woman goes to get her car fixed is not the same, just because of the gender. So different things like that we have to deal with, and we have to be that much harder and that much more on point about things. And then, you know, we get kind of the backlash of us being so hard. Well, we got to survive in this world. The thing is that we have to know when to take that armor off, and we have to, as Jay said, be in a position to feel safe enough to take it off.
Awesome. Thank you, Tashawn. As always, a wonderful wisdom. Come on, Jacqueline.
So I just had a question. I'm reminded of that umbrella slide you had there, you know, with the Lord at the top and the children. What does it mean, Jay, or what is it, an alpha male or a beta male that would ask this question? So what do you bring into the table?
Honestly, that is, generally speaking, and I kind of hate to say it, that's generally more of a beta male thing, or it's somebody who just, you know, might have gotten caught up in it, because we have the world now that we're more caught up. But I would also say, you know, and I kind of hate to say it because I'm not trying to disrespect anybody that's on the call that might have said it. But the thing I always, you know, try to remind people, and this is why I encourage men to have safe spaces where they talk about things and sometimes not talk about them in front of women, and don't take your pain and think it's cool to be in front of women. Because when it boils down to it, I look at somebody like LeBron James, and I just start with him. And if you don't like LeBron, you can pick any man of means. LeBron James does not ask a woman to go half on a date. He doesn't think twice about it. Why doesn't he think twice about it? It's because he's done what he needed to do. He made his money, and he continues to make his money. The only men that complain about money are the men that don't have it. So you're really making yourself look bad when you're constantly talking about the fact that you don't want to pay for this, or you don't want to pay for that, and you don't want to do this, and you don't want to do that, because it's your emotions showing. And when men are talking about what a woman brings to the table, and they're generally referring to money, they have not quite understood the fact that you are the provider. The woman is looking for a protector, provider, and leader. This is why so many men who are lazy, they don't have as much money. They're broke. Now, what happens a lot of times is guys in the middle, you know, that are in the dating space, they can get caught up in these terms. And that's why I try to give them some grace, because many of them don't quite understand that when they repeat this thing, it actually makes them look weak. Okay? And that's why I encourage the men not to say those things. And guys that have been hanging around me for a while, y'all know I've said that. Just go in and pay for it. Don't say it. Don't worry about it. Just do it. And after the third date, if you want her to start paying for something and she don't ask to pick up the tip, then just don't go out with her again. Don't argue with her. Just don't go out with her again. Because you make yourself look bad. So that's kind of a hard thing to fully answer, but I always try to lean towards if the man had everything financially going on in his life like he wants to, he would never say that.
So it is primarily a financial question, not so much other things.
It generally is, but the thing about it, and this is the thing about alphas, and that's why I was talking about it in the presentation. Alpha men generally are going to go after more in their life. That is the nature of the alpha. They're always looking for new opportunities. Okay, alpha men are not lazy. Okay, any man can become an alpha. Any man can become an alpha, but you have to make the decision in your heart whether or not you're going to be lazy and just say, I'm good with what I got, or if you're going to say, I'm going to go get more. Now, I don't necessarily say you guys have to do it, but if you feel like financially you are not where you want to be, then you need to either date a different type of woman or you need to go get that money. And I don't mean to say it to be rude, but I've tried to kind of explain it like this. I've talked to, probably 4 women that made over $250,000 a year. And when I talked to those women, 2 women didn't care that I didn't make anywhere close to that. So if y'all want to know how much Jay don't make nowhere close to no $250,000. And usually women want you to make about what they make or more. And 2 women really didn't care. They knew that they had made it and it was hard for people to make it. But 2 women got mad at me. They got mad at me because I didn't have money like that. And they wanted to be able to go to places like Rays on the River and all these other kind of places. And I was just like, boo, you ain't for me. I'm sorry. I ain't your man. It didn't make me feel bad because you know what? There's a lot of women that fall in my set. So, I and I always tell people, and y'all know if y'all heard me say that, I say your person is you in the mirror, the male or female version of you in the mirror. So the female version of me is not no $250,000 chick. So, because I ain't got no $250,000. She might have a little bit of money, but I don't know if she up that far. So that's just how I'm gonna leave that. Because I think that's a whole discussion within itself. And I hate to leave it a little gray, but it can kind of go different ways. But I definitely think those guys are watching way too many podcasts. And I've been trying to get people to stop watching those podcasts because I don't think that they're necessarily always pushed by guys who are truly walking in their alpha. They're walking more in their beta. So hopefully that'll help. Come on, Jocelyn.
A couple questions. What kind of guys do you normally see more with Sigma females? That's what I am. And also, what do you think is a more acceptable amount of time for an alpha to think that he can kind of take charge of a situation? Because I'm very cautious about how soon I allow somebody to take charge of certain areas in my life, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I really can't answer the first one because while I do know the Sigma male exists, I have not really spent time studying them. So I really can't say. No,
I said female.
Huh?
I said female.
Yeah, but I haven't studied that either. I don't really
okay.
with the Sigmas. And we're not talking about the Black Greek Sigmas. So yeah, I can't really even talk into that. But the second part of your question was, how quick do alpha men kind of come in?
Yeah, because it kind of sounds like you going towards it happens pretty quickly, and that's just not in my wheelhouse kind of thing. So,
well, you'd be surprised. It does happen quick, just like Tashawn said. It'll probably happen, honestly, the very first time you talk. Alpha men come in with their energy. You can feel it. You can feel it in the room because they're the one in charge. And if there's two alpha men in there, sometimes there's a little bit of a battle between them. And that's how they roll. You know what I'm saying? Some alphas are very good at releasing, like, you've been around me, Jocelyn. So when I came out to bowling with you and Kevin, that was y'all's thing. That was y'all's group. So I tried to not be disrespectful of your group and try to just, laugh and make some jokes, evidently, but not try to, be the alpha that I normally am, if that makes sense. So, people are people, so we still know how to get along with people. And it's just like I said, Kevin's an alpha. So I'm not going to go into his space and disrespect him. Same thing when he did the game night. That was his game night. You guys had put together. Even though CSC was involved with it, Kevin did most of the legwork, and a lot of that was done before, you guys joined in with CSC. So even though, CSC is there, Kevin had control of the game night. Now he was soft with it. And like I said, you don't have to come in with a slamming, you're going to do this, woman, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. Most people, they don't really work like that. That's the movies. In reality, it's generally going to be very soft things. Like I remember with us at CSC, one of the first times that people kind of noticed, the true nature of me was when one of our members, we went skating and she fell and she broke her wrist. And at the time, we didn't know her wrist was broken. And immediately I was like, okay, this is over. I was like, CSC, we're over. And I was like, Sean Williams, where are you? Can you drive? So-and-so, can you do this? So-and-so, can you do that? I was like, give me your, because the woman that fell, she was older. And so I was like, give me the number to your daughter right now, And so I was more snappy because at this point we're in an emergency. And so I am basically taking over at this point. But again, until that happened, everything was just free flowing.
Unfortunately, I think that the podcast thing has just put a sour tone on the phrase alpha male, because when you hear it normally, it has these negative overtones. So what you're explaining does not sound at all what you hear normally.
Correct.
So that's why I just needed the explanation.
Well, that's kind of why, like I said, we're trying to, redefine it, at least in how we say it. If you want to say it's just a leader, you can do that. I don't really care, about the terms per se, but we need to have the same definition. Otherwise, we're not communicating effectively. So there are bad alphas in the world. In my opinion, there are good alphas in the world. There are bad betas in the world. There are good betas in the world. And that's why I say alpha just means leader. Okay, I'm an alpha. Kevin's an alpha. Sean Williams is an alpha. Okay, we might be varying degrees of alpha men, but we're alpha. I've seen Sean Williams take over stuff. I've seen Kevin take over stuff. Tashawn talked about it, because I usually, like I say, try to use, people in the group, people that's been around Tashawn for a long time. They know Tashawn is an alpha. She's an alpha female. Okay, but the bottom line is, and that's why I try to explain to you, and I love the fact that I can use Tashawn and that, she's, good with me saying this kind of stuff, is that Tashawn has basically been able to say, okay, I submit to your leadership. I submit, Jay, to your leadership. And she's not submitting because I'm a jerk. She's submitting because she knows how hard I work. Okay, and we've been out, and, Tashawn knows I will go into my back pocket and take care of stuff. Donna knows that. Everybody, that's been hanging around with me knows for a long time, I will put all of y'all first before me. Because at the end of the day, like I've told you, I'm going to have to stand before Jesus. This is why for a long period of time, I was trying, so you didn't come in back then, Jocelyn. You're kind of at the new CSC. But back in the day, and Tashawn can tell you, I was trying to give CSC away. I wanted somebody else to lead it. because I know from a spiritual place, I got to go before God and talk about all of you guys. And I don't want that. Some of y'all hard-headed. I don't want that. Okay, but that is what he's called me to be. So I have to do what he wants me to do. But if I don't move like his son and do it sacrificially, I'm going to be in trouble. And that's why I say when you find these leaders, they should lead sacrificially. A man that is not leading you sacrificially is not a man that you want to lead you. It should not be about him. It should be about you. And then in turn, you should give back to him because you see how well he gives to you. And that's how we do with Jesus. Jesus died, literally died for us. Therefore, we give our life back to him because we see the sacrifice that he made for us. And that is how it's supposed to be. And when you get married, and I've said this before, if you are not willing to give your life away, you do not need to get married. Marriage is about giving your life to the person that you're marrying. That is what marriage is. So if you're trying to hold back, whether you're a male or a female, then your marriage will fail. I will tell you that before you get started. But if both people give, okay, then the marriage is going to be beautiful and it's going to last forever. Come on, Jamar. I know you got wisdom, dog.
No, again, thank you. Definitely a lot of gems that were dropped. One thing that I noticed, and I want to get your opinion, is for a lot of either strong betas or softer alphas, I learned that instead of like listening to podcasts and whatnot, getting around other alpha men and being able to pick up some of the ways that they behave, the ways that they conduct themselves is another way that people can be able to kind of strengthen and become more alpha on that side. I know when I was coming up a few years ago, I looked for mentorship. I asked people, hey, can I like follow you? Can I learn from you? Going through that process to be able to find out how to be more of a servant leader in that case. And even now in my relationships, I tell people I won't ask you to do anything that I'm unwilling to do myself, unless it's something that I biologically or physically can't do myself. But that also comes with me having to temper my expectations a little bit too, because there's times where the things that I expect out of myself, I can't ask from other people too. For example, I had a tire blowout happen a few weeks ago at like 11 p.m. at night. And there were a few people that I could have called, but there's also people like some of my female friends I know I can't ask them to come out and help me with this the same way that if they were to give me a call, I'll be, all right, give me your location. I'll be there immediately. Let's get some things going so we can be able to get you home as soon as possible.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Because you're just making a statement on it, right?
Oh yeah, but more so just if your opinion, if you think that some men want to get stronger in terms of being more alpha, would it be helpful for them to get around other strong alphas just to be able to absorb some of that energy, for lack of a better term?
No, I agree with that 100%. And that's why I try to tell y'all about Jamar, man. It's a smart brother right there, smart young man. But no, I agree with that 100%. The best way to become a leader is to lead. And how can you lead? But you can lead in your church, you can lead a study group. CSC offers a lot of different ways in which you can lead. There's so many things about leadership. And the only way to become a better leader is to lead. I mean, Cardo is a leader. He's hanging out with us tonight. He has a group, huge group. I think it's bigger than ours, actually. And he's a leader. So I think that, again, there's lots of different leaders. There's lots of different types of leaders. And even when I've hung out with Cardo and his group, just kind of like I was saying with Kevin, I try to, let him lead. That's his group, so don't be disrespectful. But just like what you're saying, Jamar, when Cardo comes out, he's a really great guy to, learn from. Kevin, we can learn from him. People just in general, that you can learn from. And I say get around those strong men, but just make sure that they have strong values. because a lot of times it can teach you really bad, things. So, okay, so I see something over here. So before I go to you, Camille, Edward, did you have something you wanted to say, brother? No, you don't have anything, Edward? You got your iPhone logo up there. You're not telling us your full name. But while you figuring out how to unmute, I guess I'm gonna go to Camille because you can't figure out how to unmute. Come on, Camille.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you, Jay. I don't even know how you find the time to put together all of these really detailed and helpful presentations. So thank you for your investment in us with this. I have two questions that come to mind, or two comments that come to mind as I listen to the conversation. The first one is, how can we as women, I know you mentioned in your presentation that the alpha men go fast, right? But how do we identify, or actually, before I ask that question, I think we are in an age and in a society right now where narcissism has become very prevalent. I think we are not prevalent, but I guess we are getting better at being able to identify those qualities of a narcissist. So how do we identify whether he's an alpha male, or a leader, right? A leader versus a narcissist, or versus somebody that is trying to control us as women? Because I think that could be a thin line, right? So I think, I don't know if it's a thin line, but I guess that's something that I thought about as I was hearing the discussion, and wanted to know if there was any perspective on that. That's my first question.
Okay, so what I would say, again, like I was saying before, when you are with a good man, forget if he's alpha or beta, you should feel good. It should be a good experience. He should lift you up. And not try to tear you down. Any man or woman, for the men that are on the call, any person that is not trying to build you up is a person you don't need in your life.
Right.
So that's like the first thing about that. And when it comes to narcissism and all of these crazy things that people do, the big thing at the core of a lot of that, I can't say it from the psychological perspectives, I'm not that dude, but I can say it still comes down to selfishness. It comes down to something that they want to do for themselves, and they're not thinking about you in it, unless they're thinking, I'm going to control you. I'm going to control you through these emotions. I'm going to control you by passive aggressive, statements and different things like that. All those microaggressions, those are, things that shouldn't be there. You shouldn't have a problem going out with your friends. You shouldn't have a problem, this, that, and the third. Now, when I say that, I want to make sure, because sometimes people get to the point where they have no balance. So what does that look like? So if you're married, you're not going to go out with your friends twice a month. Okay. Yeah. Because I've talked to women, and and they're like, well, I'm gonna go out with my friends, and I don't understand. And I'm like, well, not twice a month. You're not, if you want to be married, maybe once every month, or maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But most of your time should be with your quote unquote new best friend, which is your husband, and that should not feel weird or awkward or anything like that. That should be really what your heart's desire is. But you shouldn't feel like you're in prison. You should not feel like he is trying to hurt you. You should not feel emotionally weirded out. And I'm going to be honest, one of the best ways to not get caught up with a narcissist is just to be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's hard to go from a healthy state to an unhealthy state. And so it's really important for us all to be in a healthy emotional state. We at CSC, we do encourage you all to look and think about therapy. But, if you can't afford it or you can't do it, I've said it before, Thursday Talks is not therapy, but at least we get together and we can talk some things out. So that is what we are just trying to help you as best we can. But we recognize that, pain is pain and you got to deal with it. So we also want to keep you from falling into more pain. But remember, anytime you're with somebody, you're looking for the guy who basically is bending over backwards in a way to do for you. If he is not doing for you, you don't want him. You don't need him. And the problem, like I said before, is that many times women put these men into the friend zone category. And I'm not saying put the loser in there. Don't put the loser. What's the loser? Loser's a dude, he like, Camille, you so cute. And yeah, you just so nice. And he picking his nose. And he's snotting on himself. Okay, you don't want that dude.
Right.
Okay. But if you got a dude that you know of and you like, this dude got a little sex appeal, blah, 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 and you're throwing him away, that's the dude I'm talking
about. Sure.
Okay. So what's your second question?
The second question is around what are your thoughts around, well, I guess before I get into the question, I think what we're finding in today's society, and I'm not sure why it is the way it is, right? But you have a generation of women that are having to play that role of alpha females, right? And I think, I think some of us may naturally have that characteristic, but on the other hand, I think some of us are forced into it, right? Because of where we are in life, the fact that we haven't necessarily followed the trend of our parents, some of our parents where we've married at, 20, right? So it forces us, as somebody said earlier, we have bills, we have responsibilities, we have all these things to take care of. So part of adulting is having to turn on that, that alpha female, right? And sometimes, where we are in our careers also kind of fosters that. But I guess the question that I'm getting at is there a way, or do you believe that there's a way to kind of turn that off as needed based on the situation? As in, I know for myself, when I come home, I don't want to lead anything, right? When I go on vacation, I don't want to lead anything, right? So, I notice in even my own life that when I go on vacation, I like to be in a situation where everything is handled. I don't want to have to think about it. I don't want to have to figure it out. I don't want to have to figure out where I'm going. I don't want to just tell me how much I owe and I will show up. Right. So for me, I think there's a way to turn it on and turn it off. But I just wanted to understand if you think that actually is a reality or not. Because I think as women, you said it well, that we want to feel supported. We want to feel that we have a protector and a defender. So even though we may have those qualities, I think many of us would love the opportunity to be able to turn it off. But wanted your thoughts, or wanted the group's thoughts around that.
Well, I'll just say mine. I mean, Tashawn is already unmuted, but I'll just say really quickly. I think that women, I think, can turn it off if they want to. I think men can turn it off when they want to. Like I said before, I've been in situations where I know other alpha men are in control, and I have released to them.
Right.
So I think you can control it if you want to. But I think it's really just at the end of the day, it's about your heart posture, heart posture. It's getting late at night. And that's the big key I see with a lot of alpha women when it comes to when they struggle, is their heart posture is in the wrong place. The heart posture of a true person that's working for God, the heart posture is going to be for the things of God and people in love. When you look at Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman is an alpha. without a doubt. She is in control of people. It says she has servant girls. Okay, she has people that are under her. She basically runs a business. But where's her heart posture? Her heart is for her husband.
Her husband and her family.
And her family.
Mm-hmm.
See, what I see in a lot of alpha women when it doesn't work well is that their heart is for money and things.
Yeah, that's fair.
Their heart is for these cars and for these vacations and for these mansions. And when they don't get them, they get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
But if their heart is for their husband and their heart is for their children, then they don't lord their alphaness over anyone. But I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let the wise Tashawn speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, you love setting us up to disappoint. No, so I agree. What I actually want to start with is what Jamar's comment was about men who want to learn to be more alpha. I think it's the same thing when it comes to a woman learning how to kind of relinquish the reins, because it really comes back to trust. I was hesitant earlier when I was saying that I wasn't raised to be alpha, and I wasn't in the sense that my father was alpha and my uncles were alpha and my grandfathers were alpha, but in my generation, I was the absolute leader. I was responsible for everybody. I'm not the oldest, but that's just where I landed. And so I was, kind of developed in that sense. But like you, Camille, I don't want that. It's a lot of responsibility. I want to chill. I want to kick back. And so I was ready. I mean, when I got married, I was like, okay, cool. You got that. All right. And as Joseph said, there were things that I was stronger at. And so he did the things he was strong at. I did things I was strong at. But then when he passed, I was thrust into a very unfamiliar situation where, I mean, I never saw a single parent household situation. Even the divorced couples in my family, the fathers were still very much a part of the household, even though they weren't living in the household. And so just certain things that, like I was saying earlier, a conversation you have, if they know that your husband gonna come or your man's gonna come, they're not gonna try to rip you off the way they would if they're like, oh, it's just you. Okay, yeah. So here's what's gonna happen. So what I would say as far as the learning is concerned is you have to start with a male that you trust. And it might be a friend, it might be a really good supervisor, but someone that, because that's where the rub comes, it's the trust factor. If you have been hurt and you've had difficulties in the adulting, and so you're not trusting that people are going to have your best interest, so you got your defenses up. And yeah, I mean, if you don't trust that a man's going to come along and give you, take care of your needs and that you're going to be safe, you're going to build a wall of things around you. You're going to go and do the stuff for yourself that you at one point maybe wished you could have with a significant other. And so now it's like, well, I can't control that because I can't make somebody be with me, but I can control things. I can control what I have. I can control what I do with my money and my spare time in my life. I can be successful in this area. And so you kind of overcompensate sometimes. But if you can find a person in your life, whomever that might be, if it's your father, your brother, your uncle, your supervisor, somebody that's a positive, like the healthy man that Joseph is talking about, and you just practice with that person. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship for you to practice, because we have men in our lives, all of us do, even as Joseph was saying, even men have men in their lives that they have to submit to some degree for whatever reason. And so practicing that relinquishing of things is a way to start to see what that feels like. And so kind of how to move, and what's healthy and what's not healthy, and how you should the ebb and flow of the back and forth of that. And then when you do meet someone romantically, then you kind of know where to begin, and it evolves together with how they are and how you are, because you kind of know how to give room for them to have that position in the relationship. But with everything, that we talk about in the group, it takes practice. And I think sometimes we kind of wait for that person, like, oh, you're just going to click, it's going to click on automatically, this lie about it being easy. It's not easy. It's all work, and it takes practice. And the older we are and the more set in our ways we get, the harder it is if you didn't have, that opportunity to practice. I was blessed that I had a lot of men that I was able to practice with in my life. But sometimes people don't have that. And so you kind of have to find those healthy opportunities to be able to say, okay, I'm going to just take a step back. And I'm not going to be worried that if it's not the way I think it should be, that it's not a disaster. I'm going to let it be cool. If it gets done, it doesn't have to be done my way. Just different things that you just kind of start to realize as to what you're kind of doing that you didn't realize you were doing once you start to just kind of take a step back and give room and relax and let things go to a certain degree. So I guess kind of pretend you're on vacation, Camille.
Well, the other thing that comes to mind first of all, thank you for that. That was super helpful. I think what comes to mind for me as well is also being submitted to mentors. I'm a big fan of having mentors in my life. Right now, I've got 3 or 4 older male mentors. So obviously, when I go to them, I'm like, I need help, right? So I am submitting to them and to their guidance, knowing that they can be, I know they obviously have a wealth of wisdom. So it's an example, right, of me being able to be submitted to hearing and learning and being able to apply what they've asked me to, or what they're challenging me with.
Right. And honor it. I mean, as Joseph was saying, it's an investment for someone to take the position of, I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to put you first. I'm going to, pour into you. And so being receptive to that, and recognizing that, okay, they care enough about me to even, put that energy towards me. And so, I mean, not saying that you're just wide open because you don't know what necessarily they're given, but just being receptive to, okay, they're making an investment right up front in my best interest, in my well-being. And so how do I receive that? How do I reciprocate that? And not looking at it as, because I think that's what women struggle with more than anything, is that structure and things needing to be a certain way based on, the structure is the security that we kind of develop for ourselves. And having children and them growing up, that was something that I had to learn to back off of, was, okay, it's not my way, but it's done. And so sometimes that's, an adjustment that we have to make, and shifting, as Joseph was saying, shifting our heart to, like, what's really important. Is it important that it's like this, or is it important that this person is validated and is acknowledged, for what they're giving, and for where their heart is? Am I being a good steward of their love, of their attention, of their affection, of their care, concern, versus having things a certain way? If you trust that person, then the certain way isn't as important as the relationship being nurtured.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's helpful.
I tell you, as always, to Sean. Patty, I know before I go to Elizabeth, I think you had your hand up. You kind of took it down. Did you want to say something real quick, Patty? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Well, I was want to try to make sure we get everybody, because we're about to wind it down. So we're probably going to end right here with Elizabeth. So come on, Elizabeth.
Jay, I was just gonna ask the question Camille had, like her first question. where she's talking about like how, well, the difference between alpha and narcissist, like where it bleeds into the narcissist, that range. Like the thing is, when you get to know somebody, it takes like, I don't know, because they might not show you who they really are, right? You don't know if they're gonna be like putting you down in time. They're gonna put their mask on up front, so it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could even take 2 years or more to really get to know somebody. Now that timeline, may not be like in the biblical way, like that's a whole other topic, but it takes a long time to get to know somebody to figure out what their traits are. So I guess my question is, what because I'm coming from the standpoint of like, I have a friend who just ended a relationship with her ex narcissistic husband. Like she's been divorced 2 years, and she spent most of those 2 years like ruminating about him, saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have left him. He was a high earner. He had like two businesses, he was such a good provider. This is all my fault." And now she's finally snapped out of it, but it took a long time. And then all she does now is like go to these support groups. Like that's her life. Like go to like these narcissist support groups day in and day out. So you know, like I guess my question is, how do you know? Like at what point, like it could take a long time. So like how long is a fair time to judge somebody, for those types of things?
Well, I think that can vary. And I think Tashawn kind of put something in the chat that I think is really important, which she said, always pay attention to how people treat others. So that's one thing I would definitely encourage you to do. The second thing I would encourage you to do, always look at the company people keep, because 9 times out of 10, they are going to be the average of their 4 or 5 favorite people. So if you have a friend, if you're dating a guy and 2 of his friends are married and 2 of his friends are single, then he probably has a 50% chance of wanting to be married and a 50% chance of wanting to be single. However, if you're marrying a guy and all of his friends are single, that is a red flag. That is a huge red flag and one you should be paying attention to. However, if all of his friends are married, that's like, whoa, you might have something here because people generally hang out with people like them. And so you can kind of get an understanding of how this guy is going to be based off that. But I will tell you, whether it's narcissism or whether it's some other issue, every single person, whether they're an alpha, a beta, a sigma, or whatever, no matter what label we give them, there's always something that can pop up. For instance, a lot of the men on the call, not all of them, but some of the men on the call, they're divorced. And many of the men were not the bad guy, as you might see on TV. It was the woman that was the bad guy. The woman came in cheating. The woman came in trying to take every dime the man had. We have guys that are seriously wounded from financial because they don't want to buy nothing from women because the woman that was there before them stole half their money. So I think we have to recognize that pain is pain, and men have pain and women have pain. But what we're trying to do a lot of times in CSC is get through the pain. So for your question of how long do you wait, honestly, I don't know if I have an answer for that. All I can say is you have to pay attention to your person. There is a part where there is I just say what it is. It's oxytocin. I think it's called oxytocin. If somebody more scientifical, you can stop me right now, give me the right term. But oxytocin is the chemical reaction when your brain decides it likes somebody. Okay, that's that feeling of butterflies and all the other kind of good fun stuff. It's just a chemical reaction. And one of the things that I always encourage people to do is to go as slow as you can and try to keep your wits about you. Because oxytocin, when it starts to drip, you don't pay attention to the bad things that the other person is doing. But when you can keep your logic around you, then you will pay more attention to what the person is doing. And also, I'm gonna be real with you. While I don't necessarily think your friends always need to be in your business, I will say sometimes your friends are trying to help you. So you need to look at the health of your friends and which healthy friend is giving you advice. So, what does this mean? If you have a person that you trust who has their life together, who maybe is married, and then she is telling you, I'm getting a bad vibe from this guy you're dating, that might be somebody you need to listen to. But if your single girlfriend who ain't never kept a man and got, 5 kids by 3 baby daddies, and she like, girl, I don't know. I think you need to get rid of him. Nah, you don't listen to her. You don't listen to her because she don't know what she's talking about. So, but I would say look at every single thing that the guy is doing. How is he treating you? What is he willing to do for you? Is he being sacrificial? How has he talked about, your friends? Is he open? Is he trying to control you? Does he seem insecure? You have to look at all those things. And I kind of hate to say that, but you kind of do. And especially in our modern society where we have media that is feeding us so many bad images, and then so many people come from unhealthy households. So it's very difficult for them to understand what a good person looks like. And so that's really all I can say on that. I hope that helped out a little bit.
Yeah, Joseph, I just add right quick what Patty said earlier about having good character, and it's not going to just be with you. It's going to be show up in, like, even when they're talking about things that are going on in their lives, if nothing's ever their fault, then when it's a problem with it between the two of you, it's never going to be their fault then either. So if they lack a self-reflection, introspection, self-awareness, culpability, I mean, these are all things that you need to have as a good leader. Well, a good person too, but definitely as a good leader, those things that Joseph talked about in the presentation, if they're not demonstrating that in their everyday conversation, in their everyday walk, then you don't need to find out what the root of the problem. You can move on. You can let that go, because it's just going to be more of the same with you. They're not going to be like this wonderful, perfect person with you, and in the rest of their life, they're treating everyone as if they're, culpable for all of their mistakes and problems and everything else. You're just going to get it worse because you're going to be closer to them than any of those other people are.
Oh, that was really good. Thank you to John and Jay.
You're welcome.
No, Patty has her hand up. Go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, just quick comment. I used to be a leader. I had my own group here, a meetup, Overcoming Narcissistic Abuse. So if any of you have any question, you can always ask me. I believe I have, I know quite a lot. But I don't want to talk about it. I just wanted to say to Elizabeth and Camille, they ask how to spot a narcissist. There is so much to know, but keywords, go on YouTube. There are great YouTube videos. First, understand what narcissistic cycle is, how they function, know red flags, and also how they function, why they abuse, why they do what they do. And that will help you understand what they are, and it will be way quicker to spot them. So just a side note.
No, we appreciate it, Patty. I keep telling y'all, Patty wants to be the next CSC organizer. I keep telling you. We probably gonna rope her in here pretty soon, but
I could prepare a session about narcissists. That's not a problem.
Okay. Well, see, you done said a thing now. Now you just somebody need to reach out to you. I'm looking at you, Jocelyn, Donna, Kevin, because I'm busy. So y'all need to reach out to Patty. We'll get Patty. Huh? Somebody says something.
Hi, Jay. Yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good evening. This is my first time joining. Good evening, and thank you so much. I did learn a lot today. This is my first time joining the group, and thank you for all of the information you shared. I'm definitely taking a lot coming out of this, and thank God for God giving you the grace to manage this ministry. Not everyone can. So thank you for that. I don't have a lot to share. The one thing now, at the end.
Okay, you got muted. You pushed your mute button.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. So I was just going to say nothing too much, but just that, for me, with the first relationship in the Bible being one that God put together, the Holy Spirit is always my go-to, and he has never failed. So when it comes to submitting, I'm an alpha woman, but I'm looking to submit. Let me put it that way. And my character of being an alpha woman had to do with my background. I'm African, right? So I'm the first child, the first daughter. I was raised in a single parent household. So of course, everyone expects you to step up, do this, do that, and you grow up with that. It's your choices were made for you. Let me put it that way. You had no choice but to be strong and all of that. And so at the end of the day, I do believe there's someone for everyone out there, right? And so depending on the Holy Spirit to lead and guide. As I meet people from day one, definitely you shouldn't come off as being desperate. You leave it with God. You say, God, you know what? You know my heart. At the end of the day, heaven is my eternal hope. That's really where I want to get at the end of the day. I don't want to miss that, whether it's because of a job or people or anything. And if it's God's will for me to go into a relationship, that's very, very important. That matters to God too as well, who I go into a relationship with, because that can really determine where you end up, whether you go to heaven or not. It's very crucial. And so I think for me, from day one, going on that journey with the Holy Spirit guiding is very, very important. That means being prayerful from day one. That means don't look at the outside appearance, right? So the first thing is this person's heart. How is their heart towards God? Is God number one in their life? I love that. So as he's praying, I'm praying as well too. And there are guys out there that can be, whether they're alpha males or beta males, they can be great guys, but they may not necessarily be great for you as a person, and that's okay. So, but allowing the Holy Spirit, because he's been with for me as a believer, I'm a believer in Christ, right? This is a Christian website for believers. And so he knows you more than anyone else knows you. He knows everything about you. So I think turning to him before anything else and saying, hey, I say this. What should I do next, Lord? Should I, and there's so many things that has helped me over the years. There's so many things that has gotten revealed to me over the years and everything, and so I think that's one way to have that peace. If I know that, okay, the Bible tells me that, for we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, and I know that the Lord loves me, he's not going to lead me into the life of, if I'm willing to follow him, that's the key. If I'm saying, Lord, your perfect will, right? I'm not just saying that I'm trying to do it my own way. No. But God knows I'm totally surrendered like a child. So I'm like, Lord, I don't know my right from my left. I don't want to go astray. I don't want anyone or anything that will take me away from you or the path you have for me. You won't go wrong. Whether you end up with an alpha male, whether you end up with a beta male, whether you end up with a sigma male, somehow, God knows his way of doing things to where it works out for your good. That was just the little I wanted to share tonight. But thank you guys so much. I'm glad to be a part of the group. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I think you kind of led us to a really great point to end on, and that is just the submission to God. If we're worried about, how to submit, first thing you have to say is, how do you submit to God? If you can't submit to God, then yes, you probably don't know how to submit. And when we look at Jesus, like I say, as the ultimate alpha, then we can see and understand that we're supposed to submit to Christ. And it doesn't matter how, quote unquote, alpha a man or a woman is, if you cannot submit to Christ, then you have a problem, you know, for the Christians of us. And even if you're not Christian, you know, like I said, you even alphas submit to other alphas when they're in that alpha kingdom. And that's why I was trying to use Kevin as an example, because like I said, he has his own group. Cardo has his own group. And when I've hung out with them, I've had to submit under their leadership. That is how it is. So it doesn't matter what I do over here at CSC. What matters is when I go into somebody else's group, I am not going to be, I'm going to do my best not to be disrespectful. So I'm going to submit myself to that. And even with God, God does not play, you know. You either submit it to him or you're not. And God says in his Bible, there will be many of us that come to him and say, Lord, Lord, you know, didn't we do XYZ in your name? And he's going to be like, dude, I don't know who the heck you are. Who are you again? So it's showing whether or not you're submitted to him, whether you are truly doing things for Christ. So I'm going to leave on that. I'm going to do a little prayer.